Hey, how you doing, guys?
We're alive.
I'm trying to think. Is this week 3?
Week 3. Yeah, week 3. Yep.
We're in it. We're finding freedom in this 2 Corinthians series, which has been awesome. Shane's back with us this week.
Thanks for having me back.
Hey.
I was a little nervous.
We actually, Ty and I prayed about it quite a bit.
Good. I figured.
We never got a good feeling, but felt like you were our best
I've
option.
noticed for the last couple of weeks, you guys wouldn't make eye contact with me. I felt like there was something.
I feel bad because the last time you were on, I'm pretty sure it was the season finale of the last podcast. And I'm pretty sure I talked about whether we would kill you off or not.
For season
I got
2.
really morbid and that's on me.
Hey, you're amazing. We
Yeah.
are so blessed to have you in our presence.
Thank you. I'm blessed to be here.
We are fighting freedom just in you being on this podcast.
I'm glad I could clear up my schedule and make this happen.
We
Got a lot of invites for podcasts.
Well, we had to squeeze you in, and we have a lot of guests that are lined up. So, no, we're jumping in this week to this next part of 2 Corinthians, and it's been good. I mean, there's so much good about this whole series and what we're reading. As we jump in, this one at first we were like, feels kind of crazy, the whole topic, but I think it'll be fun if we start off. Because really what we're going to jump into and talk about is, man, what's it look like when difficulty hits your life? And so I was thinking, in order just to get into the topic today, just moments that you guys have where something, maybe you did something stupid, and because of that, it caused some difficulty, or we'll say maybe even suffering in your life, but or just something that happened in your life. You're like, man, this is kind of a funny story, and that'll get us into the topic. I've got like 40 of them, but I'll probably try to pick one. So
Yeah, anytime I try to do any type of like house project, usually there's some kind of suffering that's on my own. But the one, honestly, the one that I think about, I'm going to preface it by saying I was early on in ministry because it makes me feel better. You know how God loves a cheerful giver. I was feeling.
This is maybe one of my favorite stories in your life.
I was feeling very cheerful as a 21-year-old, and I accidentally tithed my entire paycheck to the church.
It was a good day. I remember you calling.
Yeah.
And going, hey, question.
Yep. You know, and I'll even say this. You know what's
Dude,
worse?
the boldness to make that
You know
phone
what's
call?
worse than tithing your entire paycheck to the church? Calling someone for the church and asking for it back.
Having to get a refund?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. In fact, I think my immediate response was, sorry, we don't give
Yeah.
refunds.
Yeah.
No, it was amazing.
I've carried that since. I've never done it again.
Yeah. I bet
is
learned
awesome.
from that once.
Yeah.
Dude, best story ever. Yep. Ty,
awesome.
you are a cheerful giver. I mean, just thinking, I just want to give it all back to the Lord.
Give it all back?
Yeah, it was so generous.
Maybe he'll give me some in return.
You're like, I'm going to need something.
Yeah. I got to pay bills.
Shane, what you got?
Well, I was thinking, this is very relevant to me because I have a son that just turned 15.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's reading the book to get his permit, and I took him practice driving.
How'd it go?
It went pretty good.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he did better than I was when I was 15 because my story has to do with me driving when I was 15. So I grew up in an area where I grew up in Arkansas, and at least there you could get what they called like a hardship license when you were 15 if you had a job, which meant at 15 you could drive by yourself.
I love that it's called a hardship license.
And that's what it brought into my life. I was driving in Van Buren, Arkansas, 15 in my 1992 Ford Escort. Let me just paint the picture for you.
Hatchback?
Hatchback.
Oh, yeah.
It had the electric seatbelt that moved on the track.
Oh, yeah.
But it was jammed, so it didn't move back. It was stuck forward.
You had to duck under it to get in and out?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
I would have to, yeah. And so the iPod Shuffle just released. And so I got it, I think for Christmas. And I had one of those FM transmitters that plugged into it.
Dude, you had the
Do you know what I'm talking
You
about?
had the setup, yeah.
Did you have subs?
No, I couldn't afford those, but always wanted them. So I had the iPod Shuffle plugged into the FM transmitter, but it would only work if I had it up high. That's where I wouldn't get the static. So I draped it over my rearview mirror, and I was driving, and it fell down under my feet. And so I was like, well, I can't stop.
No.
I can't stop listening to Fall Out Boy.
Right. Not you can't do that and look cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to lean down and get it. So I go down to pick it up, and I come back up, and I am mid-air ramping into a concrete drainage ditch. The road turned and I did not.
That's
and
amazing.
So I landed in it and it like totaled the car. I mean, bent the rims and did a whole deal. So I had to call my dad.
How'd you explain that? Did you tell him what happened? Or did you say, I don't know what happened? You probably lied. You're 15.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years later, I want to say I told him the truth. Reality, I probably told him that someone swerved into my lane and I was saving my life. I don't remember, but
Huge deer ran out from me. Yeah. That's funny. Man, yeah. So I've got, most of them have to do with cars, but
yeah.
I will tell this one on my daughter because it was a funny story. And I feel like I haven't shared this story yet on my oldest. And she, one night, so the way our driveway was set up, I would park my truck, but it would be behind her and Rachel's car. She had just turned 16. And I'd always say, hey, be careful, my truck's behind you. And one night she comes in and she's like, Dad, I backed in to your truck. I'm so sorry. It was an accident. To which I was like, well, I would hope it wasn't on purpose. Like if that would be a whole different issue. We'd have a whole nother set of stories.
Hardship license.
Yeah. And then literally, not even probably like 2 weeks later, her car was in the garage and she forgot to lift up the garage door, backs right into the garage door without, and then she had a rough stint. She's a good driver now.
Yeah.
She had a rough stint out of the gate. And I just kept thinking, hey, can you hit somebody else's car? Because you're destroying all of our property.
Yeah. Or somebody else's house.
Yeah.
So a lot of these stories do have to do with vehicles for me, like a lot of hardship around vehicles.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
This is giving me a lot of anxiety about my son turning 15.
Oh,
yeah.
man. Yeah. So our daughter turned 15 and I'm taking her out on the road to drive for the first time. And I said, hey, just heads up, there's a deer. Like there was a deer over in the woods. I could see it. Like, hey, there's a deer over there, over to the right in the woods. And she stops in the middle of the road. Like we're like doing 45 and she just comes to a complete, I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, you said there was a deer. I'm like, it's in the woods. It's not in the road. I mean, raising kids altogether could include some kind of suffering, right?
Oh, yeah.
So yes, but it's fascinating because I think some of these like life moments give us these pictures into difficulty, hardship, whatever. And we joke about it right now, but there's a lot of people. I was with a guy last night who's experienced like really difficult time. I mean, going through cancer, dying. I mean, hardship is just like, it just feels like it's crushing him. And so I want to read this passage and then we'll dive into it a little bit because I think when we get into the cultural stuff here in a second of what, as Paul shares this, of the mind, like how do we take on the mindset of a Christ follower, like not in first world, Western US, driving our cars, going to our air conditioned home, but in the mind of what Paul would have been thinking when he wrote this. So I'll read this text and then we can jump in a little bit to the context there, because the context was in our life group material for this week as well in the Devo. It says in chapter 4, verse 16, therefore we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And there's a lot in this text. One, it's interesting when Paul's brothers in Christ are facing death. Mm-hmm. John the Baptist has been beheaded.
Yeah. And
he's like, our light and momentary troubles. Light and momentary troubles is your daughter backing into a garage door, not losing your head. And I just, there's a perspective thing in this that I think we lose.
Yeah.
And I don't know when we sign up to follow Jesus, we know fully maybe, or maybe we just don't understand what we're signing up for. Maybe we just don't know, like, man, what is it that I'm signing up for? But the reality is, at some level on the dotted line, when you say, man, I want to follow Jesus, you are signing a contract to invite hardship into your life. I mean, there's no other way around it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't, whether you follow Jesus or not, you're going to experience hardship, but pursuing a purpose and a plan for your life through hardship, so a lot of people want to avoid hardship. I think a lot of Christians want to avoid hardship.
Where do you think that comes from? This, even as Christ followers, to go, man, I don't want to experience it. I don't want, God's calling me to that, but I'm fearful of it. Like, where do you guys think like we get that from?
I know it's weird for us to think this way because this is all we know culturally, but I think we're in a very hedonistic culture in the sense of like pleasure is the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
So like if I'm to plan my day goes like this. Okay, what do I want to do? You know, when do I get a massage? When do I go to the gym?
Yeah. What do I want to eat?
What do I want to watch? What do I want to eat? You know, what series am I, hanging out in Netflix? Do I got some downtime?
Yeah.
How much do I have to give? And we're gauging all these things on like just this self-absorption of, because if you think about it, I mean, we're in a culture right now of like, well, I gotta make sure that I'm mentally healthy. That's like the buzzword all the time. I just want to be mentally healthy, which means I just don't need too much stress in my life.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, that's a luxury that most of the world doesn't have.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think some of this stuff, like putting it in its proper place, is really hard. Paul, I mean, I wanted to read this 2 sentences out of our week 3 study in the Devos, chapter 66. Says, suffering was also a normal and expected part of following Jesus in the early church. Choosing Christ often meant social loss, hardship, and danger. I'm like, you knew what you were signing up for. Yeah. You knew that it was going to cost you some relationships, that you were going to put your life into. I mean, look at Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul wasn't stupid. He was killing Christians as a Jew, and he's switching teams.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I'm going to be on the team where people are trying to kill us now.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that seems crazy.
I think it's fascinating too that he relates it to when we focus on those outward experiences that we have. Like it creates that discouragement. It creates some of that, like, I don't want to go through this. But he says, actually, like, while all that's going on, God is doing this work in you that's actually gonna like propel you and like help you get through it, and you're gonna get to the other side. Yeah. And I feel like I think all of us, like, that's part of our story.
Okay, so maybe we can get into this a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you? I mean, if maybe just the 3 of us, we'll just share a snippet of hardship in our life that's produced something in us, like character in us, produced better faith, deeper faith, a stronger desire to live for the purposes that God's created us for, versus just trying to avoid any kind of suffering. Yeah. There, Eric Teese, one of our guys here at church, dude's like been such an encouragement to me on just like the health side. Hey man, I want to help you get healthy, and I need to take more of his advice. But he's just super smart in that world. And one of the things he told me in that whole process, he's like, man, I'm just not a big like go off of inspiration or motivation guy. He said, because it runs out. Yeah. And if you're not, it's like if you're not motivated, then you just kind of, you find a way or a reason to wake up and go, I don't know if I want to do that. Yeah. And I think that applies especially when you talk about getting in shape or exercising, whatever, like there's the hardship, a suffering element tied to that produces good. Yeah. And it's too easy in the midst of suffering to wake up one day and go, I just don't know if I want to suffer today. Yeah. Right. Because we don't feel, nobody goes, man, bring it on, unless you've got at least something beyond just inspiration to get you through that.
Yeah. I think it's powerful to just remember in those moments, like you're not alone in that suffering. Yeah. I think that speaks to like part of my story.
Yeah. So sure. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. I've shared with you guys, like when I was a teenager, when I was 17, I ended up in a facility with depression, anxiety, even a point where, thoughts of suicide, like type of things like that, really at just a low point in life, and really kind of felt like there was no way out, kind of hopeless. And that was really where I think God did like some of that deep heart work. And I remember like reading through the Bible. You remember how like back in the day, you could like look up what you were feeling in the back of the Bible and find one. And I was looking through hopelessness, fear, and went across like Isaiah 41. He talks about like, do not fear, for I am with you. Yeah. And he talks about like, it's my strength that's going to hold you up. I'm going to give you what you need. And it was just this crazy, it had to be God, and like it had to be the Holy Spirit of just this switch in me of that realization, this is not the end. Yeah. And God still has a plan. And I look at, my life now, like there's times all the time where, parenting, work, whatever it is, there's that realization of that, just remembering, well, what is true? I'm not alone. The God that was with me there in that facility is with me right now, and his plan is still continuing.
So what, when you look back at your perspective then, like pre-realizing, hey, even because it's this feeling of being trapped and like there's no way out, how do you approach suffering now compared to the fear that would encompass you then?
I think what I learned through that was the way I was looking at life was as if all I could see was right in front of me, and there was no sense of trusting that God not only sees what's in front of me, He sees the whole board. Yeah. He sees the whole field. And so now I think the mentality that I don't do it perfectly, but what I've tried to do is ask myself, well, what's just the next best step that I I can see to take. And trusting that God's actually he's the one that's laying the steps out. He's the one that cares for me. He's for me. And he sees the whole board, if that makes sense.
It actually, so when you're saying that, and he says, for our light momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Like if we were able to get to a place where we embraced suffering as almost like a discipleship tool to grow us versus, okay, how do I, and I get it. Like, I don't look at things and go, man, I can't wait to suffer, but to look at that and almost embrace it, to go, okay, God, what are you teaching me?
Yep.
And nobody avoids it. Everybody experiences it. So I'm not going to avoid it, but what are you teaching me and how is it going to make me, not just draw me closer to you, but make me like hunger for you more. Yeah. But I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, here's the deal with
you've never suffered other than that car accident.
Right. Been pretty smooth sailing since then. I learned my lesson there. Yeah. Here's the deal with like the inspiration, motivation type culture, right? Is bad theology works until suffering happens.
Yeah.
Like my mind goes to
Explain that.
Yeah. Like my mind goes to like this whole prosperity theology.
Yeah.
Like that works when life is good.
Yeah.
Like, man,
God just wants to bless you.
Yep.
He just wants to make sure you've got everything. He just wants to pour out his blessings on your life,
Right.
Shane. That's pretty good.
That was really good.
I mean, who wouldn't want to receive that?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so when life is good and when you're getting the blessings and when you're having a quiet time, that's good. But when I'm like, how do I like reconcile that when my parents get divorced, or, for like, how do I look at my sister when she lost her baby 2 hours after he was born?
Yeah.
And like encourage her with that motivation type culture and motivation type theology. And how do I look at my wife, who's wanted a baby for 12 years and is in the middle of that and encourage her with that.
Especially when the words feel really hollow.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Ben was preaching Sunday and he made the comment, about somebody going through something and a professor just kind of lecturing through it instead of just sitting in that going, man, because there's at some moment, I mean, it's almost like there's really nothing that can motivate you through suffering. I mean, like sometimes it can, but there is suffering that is so heavy and weighty, this cloud, that it's like, if I come to you with this cliche bumper sticker and I'm like, hey, be of good cheer, Shane, and you're like, you have no idea what I'm going through.
Yeah.
You have no idea what I'm navigating. And a lot of folks, by the time they get to that point, it's like they've been pretty positive.
Yeah.
And they've stayed pretty positive, and they're worn out mentally, they're worn out physically. And it's like, man, I don't got nothing left to throw at this thing. Like,
I'm at the end of my rope.
Yeah. Into the rope.
Well, listen, I mean, if someone is like, if their attempt is to explain your pain away quickly, it's probably because they don't understand it.
Yeah.
And it may be uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, you guys know, like, I've probably been in the midst of the hardest 3 months of my life right now. Like, I wasn't on my bingo card to go through the suffering that we've gone through the last 2 months, I guess. Yet here we are. And so, man, what God's like teaching me, Sunday, Ben talked a little bit about, he hopped over to Romans and talked a little bit about the Spirit groans with you.
Yeah.
And that was so helpful for me because like, man, God is a solid rock that we can stand on, but he's not stoic, right? Like there's a difference there. And so
it's really good.
Like I've known that I've needed to stand on him to be my strength these last couple of months, but it's so helpful to know that like, he's also groaning with me. In our suffering that we're walking through.
He's not just observing you suffer. Yeah.
But he doesn't want you to just sit in the groaning forever.
Yeah.
And there, like we read, I mean, there is a plan, but it's just so helpful to like understand the Bible in its full context and not take out these one-liner motivation passages to explain someone's pain away.
Yeah.
It's a lot better to understand the story And to be able to sit with him in that story and just, yeah.
I think in the midst of that is when you start questioning things. So you talked about theology, really like good theology and bad theology revealing itself during suffering. So, you go through financial difficulty and it's nothing that you did. It's just, man, you've hit like 4 or 5 things have happened,
Yeah.
AC goes out, car breaks down, you found out, you got to make a payment on something that you had no idea that you were going to have to make, and all this stuff happens at once. And you start to ask yourself, you're like, man, did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
Like, is God unhappy with me? Like if you view suffering as anti-God or
like as punishment,
like I'm feeling the wrath of God because of this, then the theology of that is very condemning.
Yeah.
Because then every time something wrong in your life happens, you feel condemned and as though God is disappointed or angry at you versus God saying, hey, when you experience suffering, I want to draw you in. And I want, to your point, I want to weep with you. I want to sit with you. I'm not stoic. Like I want my presence to be known in the midst of your suffering.
Yeah.
It's a different theology.
It's a great way to reframe that for us it almost feels like you're less of like being on the defense, like on your heels, and actually, no, I'm like leaning into this and I'm leaning into God.
It makes me wonder if we could get to a place in our walk where when suffering happens, or we even start to sense it, at the same time we're inviting the Lord to walk with us in it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm in. Like clearly through Christ's life, he was not hesitant to walk through suffering.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how else you say it other than he said, I'll go to the cross for you.
Yeah.
And I will suffer and die for you.
Yeah.
Like dude is not a coward when it comes to suffering.
Like all the different moments in scripture where he's saying like, hey, cast all your anxieties on me, like give me your burdens, like carry mine, it's just, I was even looking into that like whole idea of like casting your anxieties, and it's like a fishing mentality. And it's like you are throwing that bait into the water, and you're not trying to get it to come back.
So good.
It's crazy.
There's this illustration I've used before that's kind of it's a cool illustration that I don't know if visually if this will help people connect, but there's this Japanese pottery form called kintsugi. It's like when a pot shatters or breaks, they meld it back together with gold, basically gold fret. They melt this gold down and they use the mortar to seal the cracks to bring this pottery back together. They use gold to do it, and after they've done it, it actually is more valuable than it was before because it takes on this new like beauty and it, to me, that illustration has always been like super powerful in relation to what Paul's talking about in the life of a believer, to go, man, so many of us, like in our pain, we actually want to hide it because we think it looking broken makes it look like either we're not in step with God, or we've done something to disappoint God, or we haven't lived out God's plan. And sometimes our brokenness comes from bad decisions, right?
Sure.
But a lot of times suffering comes and it has nothing to do with decisions we've made. It may be decisions somebody else made. It may just be life in general happens.
Yeah.
And I part of my story is a lot of my story has to do with just the brokenness that I had in my relationship with my dad. Until I was in my 30s, I did not want to really even talk about it or address it. In fact, my mentality was, man, I'm just going to put my head down and I'm not going to let the crap from my past and my brokenness with my relation with my dad, I'm not going to let it hold me back. So I'm just going to put my head down. I'm going to push forward, and I'm not going to let what he did, keep me from being who God created me to be. I mean, all these, like, I would say motivation type, inspiration type things would go into my head of like, man, I just, I know God created me to be something, I could create bumper stickers out of all of it. Sure. And I get into my 30s. I remember laying on the roof of a house. We were sleeping on the roof of a house in the Dominican on a mission trip. And I was laying there one night staring at the stars. I think I was 32. And I was like, I got to deal with this stuff. Like, I can't keep stuffing all this stuff because it just kept, in fact, sometimes the older you get and the longer it sits there, the harder it is to almost keep that that stuff, that broken stuff from coming up, you know? And so it just kept coming up and realizing, man, I got to deal with this. And here's what's wild is I think so many of us try to hide the broken parts or the suffering in our lives. Because for me, it was suffering in the sense of my life was way harder because of the bad decisions my dad made. So because of that, I'm in this life of suffering that I'm not even willing to admit because I was afraid it would make me look like I wasn't aligned with the Lord. And instead, God's like, hey, Cody, why don't you invite me into that suffering? And it's like that gold, like in the pottery, you know, making something more beautiful. And then it was wild. At the time I was in youth ministry. It was wild because all of a sudden I'm seeing these young men without dads or with broken relationships with their father. And I'm able to step in and begin to minister to them and talk to them about my own story. And like that, there was just this connection for dudes. And I was like, yeah, actually I had similar story with my dad. And you could tell like immediately they were, all of a sudden their ears opened. And I was able to go, can I tell you what God's done in my life? And it was like all of a sudden this broken pot was he's redeeming it even more valuable. And the other thing I love about this jars of clay analogy that he uses in chapter 4 is, you know, it's what's inside the jar. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I think so often we're looking at our lives in the shell or this tent,
looking at the jar,
what Paul says, you know, that we're this temporary tent. And Paul saw his life as spirit filled, because when you read this, I just get your thoughts on this real quick. He says, so fix your eyes on not what is seen, but what is unseen. And I'm like, well, that's impossible. How do you fix your eyes on something that's invisible?
Right.
So he's obviously he's taking us into the spirit realm. Right. He's like, when you're in the midst of suffering, if you're looking at the physical realm, if you're looking around everything you can see, your eyes are on the wrong thing. I mean, that's a cool, you got to give it to him. You're like, dude, that's genius. Like, he's like, if you're looking around at everything that's crushing you from all sides, is what he says. If you're looking around at that, you're looking at the wrong thing. So my question for you guys, as we kind of charge our folks this week in this episode, what's it look like as we wrap this up to keep our eyes this week, not on our circumstances, not on what's around us, but for Paul, what was unseen was the glory that God's glory and what it was producing in him. How do you guys do that? How have you done it in the midst of suffering? What would you tell our folks? Man, here's my 2 cents on how you could do that this week as you're navigating junk.
I know for me personally, like, there is something powerful and spiritual. Like, anytime I'm able to just go for like a prayer walk. And usually on those, like, everything's kind of running through my brain of what's going on. But I end up getting to this place where I ask myself, okay, but like, what is true though? And it's not like what's true circumstantial. What is true about God and mine and his relationship?
That's good.
And it's usually what it comes down to is, well, God is with me, like, he is leading me and he is taking care of me. And whatever it is that I'm navigating, God knew it was going to happen way back whenever I was a teenager when he called me. And I'm going to get through it. I also think it's powerful too. Like, if you ever, I know you guys probably do this, but like, just like having a journal, being able to go back and look at the moments where God, like, where you were up against something and then you saw God come through it. It's similar to like what we tell people when they get baptized. It's like, this is a flag in the ground for you. And it's going to, one day when you're going through a really difficult season where it feels like God is absent and you're suffering, you're going to be able to look back on this day and remember God is still powerful now, just as much as he was on that day you got baptized.
Man, that's good.
That's just a couple, like, 2 things.
No, I love it. When you said that, I was thinking about, folks who have walked with the Lord for a while. You have a Rolodex of moments that he's been faithful. Like, you need to jot those down to where you can look back and go, okay, he was faithful here, 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 here. I have some confidence that he's going to be faithful again. And it's making sure that you don't forget his faithfulness. I don't know, Shane, if you can do this. I'm going to ask you a different question, but same question. Man. No, same question differently.
Okay.
You said, man, we've been going through some of the hardest months of our lives. Ministering, and I say ministering, I mean, just walking alongside, if that's an easier word for people, but ministering to somebody in that season who's going through difficulty and suffering. How do we do it? What's the best way to come alongside somebody in that in that season of life, even what you'd say, man, here's what we needed. And it may be really simple, but here's what we needed. And this is what helped.
Yeah.
I know I'm asking you weren't planning on me asking you that question.
No,
so.
I wasn't. There's been a lot easier to answer the other question. Well, man, those questions do go hand in hand. There's certainly a window where, like, when someone's walking through, and you guys know this, like when you're walking through something difficult, when you're walking through a season of suffering, like, you just need some time.
Yeah.
And the most helpful thing that people can do is obviously, like, legitimately pray for you, and check in on you. But there's a season there where it's like, I don't know, at least for us, like, there is a season where I know all the truth that God says in his word about suffering, but I just need to, like, work it out myself. Yeah. Like, it actually has helped me in the last couple of months, kind of reframing, like, quiet time and devotion, kind of reframing it as a spiritual workout.
Yeah.
Because when you think about working out, like, if you do the same thing for too long, you're going to stop getting stronger.
Yeah.
If I keep benching the same amount of weight,
I
got to keep increasing that. If I want to keep getting stronger.
Or mix it up, different exercises.
Yeah, mix it up, different exercises. And so kind of reframing things as like a spiritual workout has been helpful for me. But yeah, I've got to, like, let those things sit and figure out. And so the people that have been close, go ahead.
No, I think in our culture, like you mentioned it earlier, but when somebody's suffering, we want to come in and almost, like, expedite it or
fix
try to, how can we solve this? How can we put an end to your suffering? And one, we can't. I mean, the intentions are good, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that's not on us to do for somebody else. And two, to your point, this is not an enjoyable thought.
Yeah.
But what if God's not done teaching you what he wants to teach you yet?
Yeah.
We can't put an end to that. If God's in the midst of shaping and this potter's wheel moment where he's crushed you and he's building you back up, and maybe he's crushed you and we're like, okay, that's good. It's like, no, he's still in the process through this difficulty and hardship of reshaping you. And I think when you said, like, sometimes you just need time to work it out. It's like, maybe don't rush people through that process because it's different for everybody.
Well, because there has been a season where, like, I had a lot of anger.
Yeah.
And if I would have, like, rushed this healing process, I think I would just still be angry.
Yeah.
I would just be masking it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
But you know what's great, you've used the language before, like, compassion versus empathy. And I think what's great about God is, like, God has compassion and he has power. And so when those things are combined, like, that's when you fix your eyes on God and you go through the whole process of healing with him. Starts with compassion, ends with power. Like, starts with him groaning with you, ends with him redeeming it for his glory. Really, and good. So, but that word compassion, like, man, people who have just sat with us and just allowed us to talk and allowed us to talk about the anger or talk about the sadness or work out our theology of, like, was this our fault? Things like that. And people are sitting with you and hearing that and just saying, like, man, I'm sorry that I would probably be feeling that way too, and
man, Shane, hearing you, like, I think we have to get better at that.
Yeah.
I mean, we just do. But I think when we're confident in the Lord and his theology, then we can sit with people and not try to solve everything.
Yeah.
But when we're trying to, I just got to help, it's like, yeah, but you're not helping.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of work that God's doing. I listening to you, I'm like, man, how many people in our lives that are hurting just need somebody to go, man, I'm sorry, this sucks.
Yeah.
And you're just with them.
I don't got a solution for you.
I don't. Yeah. I wish I'm not God. Keep leaning into him, and I want to hang out with you because I don't want you to feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to rush the process. That's a really good word. Yeah. See.
Well,
I'm glad I asked that question. What a great question.
What a great question.
That guy took credit for that. That was good.
That was good.
No, that honestly, just your transparency in that, I think is super helpful, because I think we want to be brothers and sisters in Christ that are walking with our friends in a way in which, if we're going to teach that suffering produces this glory that God is doing in us, this image of God in us, and he's reshaping all the cracks to look like this beautiful, valuable, thing that he's doing and restoring and healing. And man, we gotta get better at that. Like understanding suffering is not a punishment. Consequences are different.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm living in some consequences right now because I've walked down a road of sin that I'm paying a price for.
Yeah.
We're talking bigger than that. We're talking about just the fact that, man, life is hard at times.
Yeah.
And sometimes it has nothing to do with the decisions that we make or don't make. And so this is a big conversation. We're out of time, but this is a big conversation for I think this is a big conversation for people of faith. Because if we can't talk about suffering and actually have valid theology around it, I think the world's like, you guys haven't got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, God's not offering me nothing. I'm just going to go find pleasure in the world. It's like, well, what we know is it's going to be temporary, and it's actually not going to resolve the deep longings of your heart. And God can actually do some things in your life to bring peace and comfort in the midst of pain.
Yeah.
Isn't it wild that he can, we were talking about this a few weeks ago with somebody, but how in the midst of the hardest times, you can still find this peace in God. You can't find that outside of him.
Yeah.
You can't, in the world, you can't find peace outside. Now, can you go and get a hit or shoot up or, mask something with, you can, but it's still there when whatever dries up or, whatever it is you're going to, that well empties. And then you're like, well, the pain's still there.
Yeah.
The difference with God is while the pain exists, we're not trying to hide it or mask it.
Yeah.
He just overwhelms it with his presence and like his love, his compassion, the word you used. So,
and that's where we find freedom in the suffering.
Dude,
boom.
See the
call it a wrap. Drop.
Nailed it.
Drop the mic. Well, don't drop that mic
because we've got. We're gonna jump in again next week. But to end it, can we just say we do think that the Chiefs might have ended a little bit of suffering by releasing Jawaan Taylor? I know we've had some people that aren't football fans, but for those of you who aren't football fans, trust us. The Chiefs might have ended a little bit of suffering.
Yep.
I'm sure Jawaan Taylor's a great guy.
Great guy. He just lives his life offsides.
He just can't seem to figure the count out.
He's never not known 1st and 20.
And I would feel really bad to say this to his face because I'm sure he's a good dude.
Yeah.
But I think we might have ended some suffering by releasing him to whatever team wants him. So go Chiefs, baby.
Go Chiefs. We're back.
We're back. Hey, we'll jump back in next week.
Let's do it.
All right.